sound too clickbait, so I'll tell you the thesis of this video up front. And Bison, the dictator. That's the queerest character in Street Fighter. The dictator is like totally gay. But to go into why is lore. So I'll talk about all the low-hanging fruit first. No pun intended, I'm sorry.
Marisa.
I live for battle.
Marisa is maybe the easiest character to talk about here because Marisa is canonically bisexual. She gets married to both a man and a woman at the same time. She knows what she wants, and what she wants is everything. Love that for her.
Journey started young, super hard-headed. Call me crazy, but you was not my psychiatrist.
No holds barred. It's just what every girl wants.
Juri to me reads as pansexual. The official material is a little bit squirrelier about it. Originally, in her character info card, it read that her favorite things were spicy food, spiders, and big breasts. And like, girl, same. Later, they got rid of the line about breasts for some reason. I don't know why. Juri flirts with everyone regardless of their gender, but in a mean way. I declare her a bi disaster.
I'll show you the power of my kung fu.
Chun-Li has never had a canon love interest. My personal read is that she prefers men, but has a hard time finding one that can keep up with her without being intimidated by the strongest woman in the world. However, if you ship her with Juri, valid. Very valid.
Juri, huh? Even without the existence of Shadowloo, I see you can't help but find ways to get your hands dirty.
Rainbow
Totally make this look cool!
Shipping Rainbow Mika with her tag team partner, Yamato Nadeshiko, is also valid.
Huh. Smart choice.
Looks like you got laid out again, huh? Anyway, it's amazing how you always find great places like this.
Ken got straight married, then he got tragically divorced, and Ryu is his rival life-mate partner. They're at least best bros for life, so if you ship them, it's kind of also sort of valid. Like, they probably just kind of got up to some stuff when they were young and trading together.
Ha! Easy living's making you soft. Give up! Give up in your dreams! Hey, what the hell are you doing? Knock it off!
But they've moved on, and now Ryu is just trying to figure out how texting works. So, I've gotten into the habit of using the international FGC nicknames for characters in Street Fighter. If you follow Street Fighter at all, you know that some names are swapped around from the Japanese to English language versions. So in Japan, the character most people call Vega is called Balrog, and the character most people call M. Bison is called Vega. But, provided you think of Vega as the guy with the claw, the Spanish ninja guy, my read is that he's mostly here for the ladies. In the story mode of Street Fighter V, he flirts with Cammy. But there's something inherently queer about his intense self-love. He's putting himself first. He believes himself to be the prettiest thing possible. Therefore, he is deeply in love with at least one man.
I'm intrigued by the idea of creating new bodies to inhabit. Too bad not even a god could reproduce a body as beautiful and graceful as my own.
Behold this body of work.
Zangief is straight. Nothing gay about wanting to wear tight panties and wrestle bears. Just normal dude stuff. Oh, stereotypes aside, Zangief does turn down a marriage proposal from Marisa and says he's never considered a romantic relationship, so... aromantic Zangief?
Select your fighting style.
Eagle from Street Fighter 1 is gay. I didn't dig much deeper into this one. I didn't play Street Fighter 1. Did anybody play Street Fighter 1? Sound off in the comments if you played Street Fighter 1. Dudley isn't gay, he's just European.
All right, let's get it.
Call me crazy, but you was
Luke is gay. But he's like cool gym bro gay, cheerful, supportive.
Oh, yo! What's up, brother? What brings you in today? Dude, you look huge.
champion. What they are made. Proud of what I see from the man
Sure
in the
thing.
mid.
Let's
Real freedom
dance.
fighter, got
Jamie is Luke's boyfriend. Okay, that last bit I did there where I ship Jamie and Luke is just fandom. It's not in text. This is a serious lore video. The actual text doesn't say anything one way or another about Luke and Jamie's sexuality. We're just having fun here. I'm allowed to have fun, guys. Don't flame me in the comments for this one. I think there's something more serious to be said here about male-on-male friendships not necessarily being sexualized, and in fact just being guys hanging out and being dudes. When I say I ship Luke and Jamie, don't mistake that for me picking fun of them. They're just cute.
We'll make it to the top!
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now this is the spicy lore. Poison, a character who made her debut in the game Final Fight, and most recently has been spotted in Street Fighter V, is a transgender woman. Maybe. It depends. This is one of those things with a spotty history. It also has a bit of that lost in translation flair. Poison and a palette slop named Roxy were introduced as Mook units in the Final Fight beat-em-up game. Allegedly, and I'm using sources in the Street Fighter wiki for this part, so I'm just doing my best here, there was a bit of controversy over whether having a man beat up a woman would be okay in such a game. And the Japanese developers quote-unquote solved this by just saying, well, she's technically not. Which, to be clear, is not great, but that's what they did. Poison was eventually included in Street Fighter, starting with her appearance in Street Fighter Alpha 2. There's ongoing debate whether Poison's supposed to be a trans woman or a cisgender woman. The games muddy the waters on this a lot, and they play with the concept. Some people say, much like the names of certain characters in Street Fighter, Poison's gender status depends on the region the game is in. In this quote from Final Fight designer Akira Yasuda, he said, "Personally, I think of the North American Poison as a transsexual and the Japanese Poison as a woman." Meanwhile, Street Fighter IV producer Yoshinori Ono has said there's no official Capcom answer if Poison is trans or not. Rather, it's something they're leaving open to fan interpretation. Despite the rocky rationale that led to this choice, I like trans Poison. If you don't, and that's not your headcanon, that's kinda up to you. Despite all this, not the queerest character in Street Fighter, because Seth is explicitly trans, or at least to be clear, explicitly non-binary with no defined gender. The first time the character Seth appears is in Street Fighter IV, and he's the final boss. The character at the time had a male body and a male voice, albeit a male body without genitalia because he's just sort of a biomechanical robot. When Seth returns in Street Fighter V, Seth is now in a female-looking body. Seth still has a male-presenting voice. He still uses he, him pronouns. So my read on Seth is that Seth doesn't give a about what gender he is or presents as. He only cares about power, and appearance is not relevant to the pursuit of power. Seth's ultimate goal is to collect the data of all powerful fighters so he can incorporate their skills into his own moveset and become the ultimate fighter. Some of those fighters happen to be women, so they get thrown into the mix. The new body might have tits, but it still kicks ass, and that's all Seth cares about. He, him, non-binary with a femme-presenting body. Pretty queer. Not the queerest, for a reason I'll get into, which is tangential to Seth. But I'll also acknowledge 11 and 12 are also genderless shapeshifters. As far as I can tell, they also still use he, him pronouns. Beyond that, I don't think there's a ton of lore here. Capcom didn't do a lot with them. They're just there for the cool shapeshifting character mimicking in the battle gimmick. Also, I didn't really play Street Fighter 3. I'm sorry, please don't hurt me.
recognize I'm a champion. I did it even what they say can't be done. Wear my stripes proud.
You're in for a show.
Okay, what's going on with this? What do all these characters have in common? Well, if you know, you know. all of these characters, Cammy, Abel, Seth, DeCapra, Ed, Falke, were supposed to be used as backup bodies for M. Bison. One of them is explicitly non-binary, which we already talked about, and some of them are, well, women. In the original arcade mode ending of Street Fighter II, The New Challengers, Cammy, who is an amnesiac who doesn't remember her past, defeats the dictator. After this, she discovers that she and the evil leader of Shadaloo had a prior history. In this ending, Bison says to Cammy that they were once in love. This is not accurate. This might have been an original draft of the story that was slightly less queer than what ended up being the final story, but we don't have to necessarily think of this as a retcon. Since Cammy was an amnesiac, Bison could have just said these words in order to manipulate her back to his side. But why? He wants to be her. That's the story. Maybe not full time, but at least as like a backup outfit to like try on sometimes to feel pretty. I can sense some of you rebelling, so let's go back to what's in the games. The dictator uses a power source called Psycho Power. Psycho Power gives him the strength, the speed, the ability to teleport, and lots of other cool tricks that he can do with that psychic energy. It also takes a toll on his body. Dictator has a device called the Psycho Drive that amplifies his power, which allows him to regenerate and become strong in the short term, but creates long-term damage and degradation. We can see some of that degradation on many of the characters that interact with Psycho Power. Most recently, there seems to be a lot of signs of it on whatever M. Bison's current body is in Street Fighter VI. Quick aside, there are no spoilers for the new patch in Street Fighter VI in this video. I wrote most of the script before the new patch dropped. Though it is very cool that some of the Street Fighter VI concept art, before they settled on the new design, explored this interpretation, including the possible femme Bison shown there on the left. In his quest for immortality, the dictator has developed multiple backup bodies. The idea is that he would become a psychic entity capable of shifting his powers and consciousness into other forms. It seems like at least part of this plan worked. The character Rose, another character that uses psychic abilities, uses what the game calls soul power, a sort of light side of the Force version of Psycho Power. She also somehow contains part of M. Bison's soul? Okay, that's pretty weird. In Street Fighter Alpha 3, Bison transfers the rest of his soul into Rose and lives as her for a time. He seems to be cool with that. A lot of this timeline is really tangled, but this series of events has been turned into the rationale for why Dictator in the Street Fighter Alpha series is a lot more buff than Dictator in the original Street Fighter 2. This body is a new Dictator body that he cloned or created after his time inhabiting Rose's body. I think the least queer read of the Bison-Rose situation is the same as the read you can do with Seth. That is to say, at minimum, the dictator doesn't care about the gender the body he happens to be inhabiting at the time. As long as it's strong and powerful, then he's into it. But if that's the case, why does he keep cloning women? Why women at all? Maybe it's a matter of suitability? Abel and Ed are also backup bodies, male type. In Abel's case, he's implied to be a clone or otherwise genetically engineered person. Abel was quite specifically a failed creation designed to be disposed of. It's unclear what exactly wasn't suitable about Abel in the end, but it might have something to do with his scarification. Ed, another backup body character who's now in Street Fighter VI, lacks the scarring all over his body that Abel has. The story of Street Fighter IV implies that Ed was found as a young boy. He was experimented on and groomed to be another backup Bison body. But Psycho Power also seems to take a toll on any body, which is why further experimentation was needed. The same sort of scar pattern that's on Abel's body is also found on Cammy, particularly her legs with the one notable mark on her face. These marks are much deeper on DeCapra, another failed clone that Bison considered unsuitable. DeCapra, unlike Cammy, didn't escape Shadaloo, and instead she was kept around. She's part of Bison's fighting force of female assassins known as the Dolls. There's a dozen main dolls, each named for a month of the year, and these dolls are also psychic women. There's also a larger squadron of secondary dolls. Shadaloo also employs male goons. You gotta have goons, but the dolls seem to be the dictator's favorites. So let's ask another question. Do they
Of course!
The primary text, that is, the Street Fighter games, doesn't say anything about this one way or another. In Bison's in-game win quotes, which are the most dialogue he has in the games, he mostly talks about how cool it is to be evil, how much he loves causing fear and terror, and how everyone needs to grovel and cower before him. When he talks about Chun-Li, he belittles her gender as weak. When he talks about other young women he encounters, he considers their suitability as members of his doll army. Now, we could suggest this female assassin army situation is also kind of a polycule. We could also suggest that there's nothing sexual about this at all. We could also talk about what it means for a grown man to play with dolls. Fellas, is it gay to raise an army of all young women and make them all wear matching uniforms and do their hair all pretty? Or we can look at supplemental material. In the live-action Street Fighter movie, the definitive performance by the incomparable Raul Julia gave the dictator a few other notable traits. Some of these traits have made their way into the games. He seems to show a prurient interest in Chun-Li, dressing up in a smoking jacket to bring her into his personal lounge. This might, of course, just be another way of trying to get under her skin, but the whole encounter makes it very clear he feels her rivalry with him to be one-sided.
For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
In Namco Cross Capcom, yeah, I know, it's just a random crossover, but bear with me, Dictator uses the Doppel power to copy other characters as fighting units. This is a necessary mechanic because these games are tactical RPGs instead of fighting games, so you just need extra characters on the field. The characters he copies includes the dolls, but the other characters he copies are also only women, creating a different kind of all-female army. The people he's facing down in the game interpret this as a horny thing.
Why did he only grab the ladies? You're a pervert.
Whatever the rationale is, it seems the dictator gets some visceral pleasure from manipulating and controlling women. Whether it's physically, psychically, by lying to them, by being them, all of the above. I realize now after that statement that at least one person is going to get this far in the video and be like, I can't believe this humorless feminist is canceling M. Bison. So just to be clear, this is a lore video. I love villains, and I think Dictator is one of the coolest villains in anything, ever. I did play Project Cross Zone, by the way, but these games are super long and tedious, so shout out to this hero that posted an entire playthrough of Namco Cross Capcom so I could review some of this dialogue. Anyway, if you interpret this as the Dictator being a pervert, it's pretty het! But the lines here are kind of blurred. He likes the ladies in the sense that he hypnotizes them, possesses their bodies for his own uses, and treats them like literal toys. He sometimes possesses men, too. But then that's all this body swapping shenanigans? You want to become part of another dude? Regardless of the gender of the person whose body you're occupying, there's no way not to make that a little weird, especially if you're doing it on purpose. His interest in Ryu is because he wants that body. For stuff. Not a sex thing. Street Fighter V decided to just go off the rails with this. Not only did it give us Falke, another bad bitch backup that Bison built to be, but it also gave us a series of other Shadaloo project rejects called Neo Shadaloo. These characters are all stated to be potential backup Bison bodies in one way or another. And it's a roster that includes this lovable marshmallow man, a psychic gorilla, and a dolphin. Fellas, is it gay to want to be a dolphin? The Street Fighter wiki says the dolphin's name is Amarita, which is Sanskrit for immortality. It's usually a girl's name. It's probably a female dolphin. Look, she's got the eyelash. I mean, maybe this is a way to find a mind powerful enough to try to contain infinite psycho power by any means necessary, but you know what dolphins get up to. So yeah, there's no way around this. If you develop a whole philosophy of villainy based on collection and possession and ownership of a wide variety of bodies, there's no other word for this but queer. You're either obsessing and analyzing bodies of the same gender, taking over and wearing bodies of the opposite gender, or eschewing gender altogether in pursuit of power. In the case of M. Bison, aka Lord Vega, aka The Dictator, You're sometimes doing this while contemplating giving up the frail human flesh completely and becoming a magical dolphin. And that's why I think the Dictator is the queerest character in Street Fighter. Also the outfit, especially Ed's porn parody version of the outfit, holy moly. Disagree? Have other evidence? Did I miss a character or a nuance you want to shout out? Leave a comment down below. Give into your anger, give into your hate, for that is the true nature of the psycho power. Or if you want to say something nice, that'd be swell too. I overthink video games and I stream 3 or more times a week. I didn't get this video out during Pride Month like I planned because it turns out editing just takes a long time, but I hope you have had a great one.